could when I was small, and it's so picturesque, looking through the crystal.
Ciao, and welcome to Gio's Paintbrush, where 5 minutes is all it takes to be blown away by one of the world's greatest artists. You know, my grandfather, Jim Durkin, worked at the Art Institute of Chicago as a security guard for a few years after retiring from United States Steel, mostly to help support us. About all I can remember of the museum from those days in the mid-70s, from the few times we visited him there, are the lions on the front porch and the painting that's the subject of today's show, Paris Street Rainy Day, oil on canvas, 1877, by the French painter and Impressionist patron Gustave Caillebotte. There has always been something about this painting that has moved me. It's by far the first piece of art that seemed to really stick in my mind. And now at 43, well, it's been there a long time. And to be honest, even after about 35 years, I still struggle to put into words why this image possesses such resonance, why I find it so beautiful, so captivating. Having spent some time over the last 2 years studying and thinking about art, really trying to get at it for the first time, in today's show, I'm going to try to communicate why Paris Street Rainy Day has become like an old friend to me, but one of those old friends with whom you just click, even though you can't really explain what the friendship is based upon. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to approach this painting in 3 ways. First, I'll share what words come to mind for a variety of Chicagoans when looking at this work. Then I'll explore what I've learned about the piece in recent years, before finally trying to capture why I loved it as a kid, well before I knew anything about it. I posted Paris Street Rainy Day on Facebook and asked friends to share the first words that came to mind. Sherry Ann posted Art Institute. Sonia said dimensions, perspective, shades of gray. Oscar, architecture and style, very Paris. Cindy offered aristocracy, leisure, and loneliness. Joan posted, the scale always strikes me. It's pretty large, isn't it? Urbane, all civilized, pavement, streetlights, dark overcoats, and umbrellas. And finally, Leslie said, perspective. That's what it always makes me think of, perspective. And that's a great place to start, perspective. It's clearly one masterful aspect of this painting. While the large golden building in the center anchors the composition, the viewer can follow the street to the left of the mammoth structure deep into the horizon, and then do the same with the street to the right of the building, though not as deep. And then there's the foreground painting, dominated by the couple coming into our space on the right, and by the wide-open, brand-new brick street to the left. Looking for evidence of this artist's more classical bent when it comes to perspective? Look at the way the light post, smack dab in the middle of the painting, divides the work evenly into 2, like 2 paintings in balance with one another. And notice the clean, simple lines and angles, like the angle of the curb upon which the lamp post sits, and the lines on the buildings as they fade into a Renaissance-like horizon. See the pyramid-like architectural detail atop the buildings? But what makes Caillebotte's exploration of perspective so interesting is not his mastery of classical lines, forms, and symmetry, or Renaissance horizon techniques. What he does here that is unique is he offers those things, executed beautifully, in combination with a playful approach to a thoroughly modern sense of perspective. Look at the couple walking toward us. They're cut off just below the knees. Why? Surely there was plenty of space in this large painting for the artist to portray them in full. And the gentleman far right, walking toward them. He's been literally cut in half, cropped half in and half out of this scene. Again, why? The answer, I think, has to do with photography, a new invention in the 19th century that Caillebotte and his contemporaries often responded to in their paintings, seeking to ensure that art remained relevant by portraying life on canvas in ways photography could not, especially when it came to capturing perspective, light, and color. In this painting, though, Caillebotte, playfully it seems to me, gives photography a little jab. Not only can paint portray life more richly and fully than a camera, if a painter chooses to, he too can cut off subjects at their knees and crop human beings in 2. In other words, anything you can do, camera, I can do better, seems to be the message here, and that's a lot of fun. While it's not patently obvious on first glance, Caillebotte was a French impressionist. While his approach to form and color is more classical, more realistic than better-known impressionists like Monet, in Paris Street Rainy Day, Caillebotte captures a momentary impression from memory of a Paris street just after a storm has passed. So recently passed, in fact, that the pedestrians still have their umbrellas up, and notice that the brick street is still wet. Just as Monet captured scenes of everyday life and of nature, portraying light and the subjects in the scene as they appeared to him in a fleeting moment of time, Caillebotte does the same thing. But, according to the docents at the Art Institute, the moment in time Caillebotte portrays in Paris Street Rainy Day also serves as an important metaphor. Those initial moments just after a rainstorm seems to have passed stand for, they suggest, the initial period of civic calm that followed bloody fighting in the streets of Paris. Fighting even took place in this very intersection, not far from Saint-Lazare station, just before the painting was completed in 1877. Significantly, the painting also captures, in vivid color, the changes to the Paris cityscape and street plan just implemented by Napoleon III after a trip to England, where Georgian or neoclassical architecture was set along wide, broad boulevards. Notice in this painting how the corners of the building have been truncated as part of this project. Notice also, deep in the background, just beyond the center building, over the tip of the central gentleman's umbrella, the scaffolding, showing how recent this work is and that it's still ongoing. Napoleon III had more in mind than civic pride and classical architectural taste, however, since police and soldiers under his charge could form up and maneuver in such wide spaces, whereas previously poor, disaffected, and angry Parisians could easily block a medieval street, a la Les Miserables, and hold off superior forces for hours or days. And so the respectable middle-class Parisians depicted here in this work are out of doors on a clean, safe street, dressed to show, resuming life again, although the presence of the umbrellas sure leaves some uncertainty about whether or not the storm has really passed or has just taken a brief respite. One positive sign, however, is the street lamp, which appears clean and intact. Turns out that street lamps were often the first thing broken by protesting angry French crowds, since the darkness provided them with anonymity and made escape possible if things really got out of hand. Apart from the fascinating historical themes portrayed, I find the richness of color, the contrast of the darkly clad figures on a lightly colored background, the portrayal of movement, the exploration of perspective, and the playful poke photography, and the masterful painting of the misty half-light that emerges after a rainstorm, find it all absolutely remarkable. This is a modern urban street scene, transformed into something beautiful and complex and alive. Notice the alert, interested gaze of the couple in the foreground as they look at something of interest, unknown to us, off canvas. And Caillebotte gives the scene plenty of room to unfold, much like Napoleon III's New Streets. This canvas measures 84 by 109 inches, larger than other works by French Impressionists who took their new paint tubes outdoors and often worked in the field or overlooking a city street, thus limiting the size of their paintings. There's also a hint of sadness in the piece, with the rain, the haze of the sky, and the complete lack of interaction among most of the people portrayed on the street, perhaps raising more modern themes of the alienation of urban life and a lack of communication between people who, ironically, spend their whole lives living practically or literally on top of one another in major cities. What first drew me to this painting, long before I had any understanding of art history or 19th century French culture. I've given this a lot of thought. I believe initially it was the beauty and scale of this painting that attracted me so as a kid. I imagined it would be so exciting to step into that scene, with brick streets, buildings like I'd never seen growing up in Chicago, dressed in a clean white shirt, bow tie, and top hat, strolling with a happy girl on my arm and a hand placed casually in my pocket. For a kid from a working-class background on Chicago's South Side, I guess it all looked quite sophisticated, almost like a dream world. Now, as an adult, I'm even more impressed with its beauty and with the artist's skill, but I'm also fascinated by the historical and social themes Caillebotte was exploring, and there was nothing dreamlike about those. One day, Dana and I will stroll through this same intersection, near the Saint-Lazare train station, once painted by Caillebotte's friend, Claude Monet. And with Dana on my left arm, even though I've never been to France before, let alone Paris, I just know it's going to feel like going home. Thanks for joining us.
I can picture it like I could when I was small, and it's so picturesque. Looking through the crystal ball.